How great would it be to get up close and personal with the beauty industry heroes we love and admire, and to ask them, how did you learn to do what you do? I'm Chris Baran, a hairstylist and educator for 40 plus years, and I'm inviting all our heroes to chat and share the secrets of their success. Well, I'm really excited about this week's guest. He is 2 years in a row, he's been voted the most artistic award by the Cosmetology Association Chicago show. He is the NAHA Men's Stylist of the Year. He's a wall educator that leads Wall's professional disruptor trifecta. He owns a barbershop and barber schools. So let's get into this week's head case from Chi-Town, Mr. Nieves Almaraz. Nieves, first of all, I'm honored to have you on, bud. And just so the people that are watching and listening know, Nieves and I I'd say we're I would say great friends that haven't been together a lot. Nieves, would that be a fair assumption?
I love that assumption, or that the way you put that. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because to me, buddy, what that comes from is just really, I'm hoping is a mutual respect, but to me, it's just such a respect for what you do. I've watched your work, and it's phenomenal. And, just like you can see, like at some of the gigs we're at together, we might be together, meet each other in the hallway and get some chat in and so on. And then it's kind of the next show. So it's a pleasure to have you on, bud.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. The feeling is mutual. I think, Chris, you're the type of person that you meet, and, every time I run into you, it's always like, warm, heartfelt, like, hey, this is my buddy,
Well, it's because it's true, and I feel that, it's especially, it's not that we're in competing brands, and that, for those of people listening and watching, sometimes what happens in our industry is people are from one brand and one from another, and they feel they can't talk to one another. But to me, it's about hairdressers and about the hairdressers that help to shape the lives of other people around. And, I'm always that guy also. I've been stalking you a bit. So when I'm at hair shows, I try to stay in the background and kind of watch the work that you do. And while I know that you do men and you do women's hair, but it's primarily men's hair, correct?
Correct.
But you are freaking amazing at it. And I know, and I'm going to talk to a little bit later about how a lot of people in the cosmetology business are afraid of fading hair and afraid of cutting short hair that's that short, etc. I want to talk about that later, but I am a stalker. I've been at shows and I sit at the back of the crowd and I watch your work, and your work is amazing. But listen, I want to kind of start with this. I think that everybody, because there's people out there that are going to watch this and they know you, they love you, they fall on every word that you say when it comes to hair, and I'm sure other things. But the reality is there's some people out there that don't know you. So what I want to talk about is, just first off, is I always believe that there's two kind of people in our hair industry, and there, you got one kind of person is they know they were going to be in hair right from day one, and then the second part is they fell into it for some reason. Which one was you?
I think I fell into it. Yeah.
In what way?
In the sense of I did a lot of odd jobs before I started doing hair. But whatever I've always done, I've always tried to excel in it, I tell these stories all the time, to my kids, to the students at my barber school. There was a time when I was a janitor at a factory,
Awesome.
There was a time I worked at McDonald's, and I tell people that McDonald's was one of my favorite jobs I ever had.
Really? I hear that from so many people. Why?
I think it's, you're at a point in your life where you're young and you don't really worry. You look forward to seeing the group of people that you work with. and you just have fun at work. But one of the things that I really took out of there was the systematic approach to things in the way that McDonald's actually ran, and a lot of the things and that I learned there and developed along the way, I actually use them to this day, and I teach my students systems, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of feel like I had all these odd jobs, and I was trying to find my way, and I was seeing a barber at the time, and I started asking about what he was making doing this, and I really liked the environment,
Yeah.
and that kind of drew me towards it.
Yeah, interesting. Like, did he was the figure that he said that when you asked him, and unless I got it wrong, did you were asking him how much money is potential to earn?
Right.
What and I mean, even though it's relative, because I'm guessing that was more than 2 years ago, but did the number that he say intrigue you?
Yeah, it did. It was double of what I was making at the time at the job I was at. And
Wow.
and I was like, wow, barbers make that much. I'm like, wow, I would love to get into this if that's the case, you know?
Show me the money.
Right. So that kind of made me try to, get in it and pursue it. And there was a gentleman in that barber shop that was sweeping. He would just sweep the barber shop. That was his job there. And clean, I guess he was the maintenance guy and whatnot. But he actually was selling clippers and, tools that you needed to cut hair with. And I remember buying a box of clippers and talc powder. He gave me everything in there, even a straight razor. I didn't even know how to use that thing. but I took the box home, and whoever would let me cut their hair, I cut their hair, and I thought after 2 weeks or a month I was the best barber on the planet. and and
So
one thing.
I'm only laughing because I go back to my career and when I thought I was shit hot,
Right.
and then found out differently.
So one thing I noticed, because I was going to the barber shop, like I was frequenting it twice a week.
Yeah.
I'd get a fade on Wednesday, and then I'd go and just get my lineup touched up on the weekend. So I was always in there, and I would always be observant, and I seen that a lot of the barbers in that particular shop I went in, they weren't really like doing share cutting, So I said I had told my wife.
When you said what, share cutting
shear
or
shear
shear
cutting.
cutting?
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Uh-huh.
my
They weren't.
ears, not your mouth.
Yeah. Well, they weren't using scissors. Let's say.
Yeah, gotcha.
Right. And I told my wife. I said, when I go in the barber shop, I don't see too many people, working with scissors. I said I should probably go to a school and learn how to do that.
Oh,
And
interesting.
and she had two aunts that were in the business, and well, they still are. But at the time, she was telling me how they went to hair school, and I said, "Oh, great! Where'd they go?" Um, and see, no one ever told me there was a barber program, there was a Cosmo program. I didn't even know what a cosmetologist was, you know. and I crack open the yellow book. This is how long ago this was.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it was I was in it so long ago that it was pink. So,
So
so you went to cosmetology school, not really knowing what it was. What was that like?
well, I mean, I walked in there, and I was given my kit, and there were roller sets in there, and you know, and just to give myself, because people don't understand how blind to all of this I was. When I went to the school, it wasn't open that day. I went early and I signed up, and all I was thinking was, this is a place that I'm going to come to, um, and they're going to show me how to use scissors. All right. This is what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. No one told
Yeah.
me. I didn't even know there was a license involved. Okay.
Oh, really?
So I show up when the school's open the next following week, and I get this kit, and I have everything I need to do: manicures and pedicures, roller sets, and I think to myself, even then, I think to myself, wow, I have something to give my mother, you know?
Oh, well, see, no, I love the positive spin on that, because I was expecting, a whatever, but you went, no, listen, here's how I can pamper mom. That's awesome.
So, so then I'm introduced to the instructor. They tell me to set my mannequin up, and I'm asking this question. Well, when do we start the scissor cutting? And then the instructor says, "Oh, you mean shear cutting?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, first you need to learn how to palm them. You need to learn how to hold them, hold your comb, and do all this at the same time." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't. This is definitely not what I think it is, you know." But hey, here I am. I'm there. I signed the contract, and um, I'm actually very, very glad that I went that route, because I got to see a different side of the business,
Yeah.
by going through the cosmetology program. And excuse me, although I really wanted to focus on men's hair, I ended up learning a whole lot more than just that.
Yeah. What do you think, with the cosmetology training that you had, gave you an advantage over the average person who did not, when you went into men's hair? What was that thing for you?
I just think that understanding and the knowledge of, perhaps the longer lengths, hair color,
Gotcha.
understanding chemical texture, service, things of that nature, even nails
Yep.
in general. And in my barber school, that I have, that's something that we teach here, is nails. But
Is nails good?
I was a big fan of nails when I was in Cosmo
Yeah.
school, and I
Well,
liked
it's
all
part of the
the.
grooming process. It's part of the grooming process, isn't it, for men and women?
Exactly, and I think even I'm surprised how acceptive, the students are to it. A lot of times, there's that standard of, hey, I don't do my nails, and
Hey,
and
yo.
and and you'll be surprised how many of my students are actually really into it, and I see them all the time. Even they give themselves manicures, and I think it's a big deal. It's a big part of, what we do, also in the barber side of things.
Yeah. So, you went to barbering school. You went to Cosmo school. You went to barbering school. What was it like when you first got out of school? When you got out of there, where did you work at Did you work at a place? Did you start your own right away? What
Yeah.
was it like for you?
So I actually opened up a unisex, but it was more barbering. I
Yep.
opened up like a barber shop, before I graduated, actually.
Wow.
So I opened up right away, with the ambition, and I knew I was going to get my license. So right away I opened up, and I actually had instant success. It was booming. Business was booming
Yeah.
at the moment. There wasn't too many people catering to the fade service, and the precision lines, that we were doing in my area. So we took off, and in the midst of all that, the owner of the cosmetology school encouraged me to take the instructor program. So
Oh,
while
really?
while I owned the barber shop, I was actually going to school still to get my instructor license in cosmetology.
Well, that's interesting. So give some perspective. What years did you go to? What years did you take your training, and what year was it that you opened your business?
So I took the training in 2002, and I was there for quite some time around that time frame. And I started the process of opening the shop in 2004. And 2005, I'd say February, we were open for business.
Wow. So you're in your barber shop, your salon, unisex shop. And by the way, this is tea. There is no wine in there yet. I've done that for some, but there's no wine there. It's just my mouth. So I want to. So there's obviously you're in the business, but all of a sudden now I want to fast forward to like where I know you. I know you as the gentleman that is always on stage, traveling the world with Wall. How did you get? What was the transition like? What happened to get you from behind the chair? I mean, a lot of people listening and watching will be wondering, how is it that you get to where you get? Is it possible for me to do it? So what was the process that happened for you to get you, first of all, on your first gig teaching?
Yeah. So this is I would say this is a big or a long story. Okay.
Well, I got a lot of time, bud.
However, so just going back to the cosmetology, I'm a cosmetology student. Let's look at that time frame. I'm going to the hair shows. I'm introduced to the hair shows there. So I'm inspired. I'm like, wow, this is just a whole new world for me, And, I opened up my shop, and one day a gentleman came in, and I'm from Chicago. My shop is in the Chicagoland area. And he comes in promoting a competition for the Cosmetology Association. And I go to the competition, and, I ended up winning a plaque. It was an honor. I was happy, and I developed a relationship with that gentleman, and his wife was actually the president of the association out here in Chicago. And, I would tell him, I'm like, yeah, I've been to these hair shows, and I'm just so inspired. And he said, well, why don't you come out to the hair show, volunteer, signing people up for the association, and you can meet some people, So I actually volunteered at the hair shows before I stepped foot into the showroom, and with the notion of all of that. So I didn't know where it was going to lead me. I just knew I was going to meet some people,
Yeah.
And, in return, you volunteer your time, you get to walk the floor, and, you get inspired. And that's
Nieves, I want to stop you there for just a second, because I want to make sure that people really heard what you said, particularly the young generation that's just out there right now. And while some people are saying, yeah, but they want this and that and the other, I think that the young industry that we have and the young people coming up in our industry are phenomenal. And some of them are going to want what you do too. So that's the key is to get yourself seen. And I think you made the first step when you said, look, I'm going to volunteer my time. I'm going to, and we know in life, nothing is free. You gave free time, but what you got back out of it was a plethora. And yes, I use the word plethora is that you got a lot of networking skills out of that. And you got a lot of people to notice you, and it gives you a step up in our industry. As I always say, that you've got to be seen in our industry if you want to get somewhere. So I sorry for interrupting, but I want people to really understand what you went through and how important that is in what we do of getting your chops within our hair industry.
Right. And volunteering your time is just one part of it, because even from there, it wasn't like, oh, you met all these people, you networked, oh, that paved the way. No,
Yeah.
what that paved the way for was more inspiration, more exposure for me to see how the industry was moving at the time, So I used to, after doing that for a year or so, I used to come out and I would take all the guys from my barber shop and tell them, come to the show. It's so awesome, And I would put designs in their hair and cut their hair and do something extravagant. And as we would walk the show floor, people would stop us and want to take pictures
Bingo.
of this stuff,
Yeah.
So now we were bringing attention to ourselves. And one thing I noticed was that it was like a huge demand that people was always saying, we want to learn that. We want to learn that,
Yeah. Yeah.
So that inspired me to make an instructional video. So I shot
And what year was that? What year was that?
This is 2008. Okay.
Wow. See, and nobody was doing that at the time. Nobody was putting out videos.
Not at the time.
And guys, and I want to put this out for the people that are watching. Is Nieves, what is your Insta handle?
My handle's how to fade hair.
How to fade hair. I want people to go there because you can see. I was scooting through there. I can't remember whether it was yesterday or today, and there's some like amazing work on there. So and to me, that's about the inspiration behind it. And I think that inspiration leads you to a curiosity factor of how do we make next steps, and I think that before you make a step, you got to be curious and want to, wow, that intrigues me. How do I get there? So that was such a cool marketing plan that you had, whether it was inadvertent or not. Let me do up our hair. Let's make a show, and you're your own show within the show, right?
Right. So
awesome.
So then I was trying to figure out ways to, how do I become part of the show after that, And, one thing about me, I was never the type of person to walk up to any of the manufacturers or all these people and say, hey, how can I get put on? Or how do I become a platform artist? Or, I wasn't never that type. So I figured I'm gonna draw them to me.
Yeah.
And that's the way I did it. I actually got my own space at the hair show, one of the major ones out here in Chicago. At the time, I believe it was Midwest Beauty Show.
The Midwest Beauty Show, yeah.
Now it's America's Beauty Show.
Yeah.
So I got a small booth, brought my DVD out there, my instructional video, and I brought this small stool, and I started cutting hair out of my little booth. And were you gathering people out of the audience? Just, hey, come on, get a haircut? Or they were watching and then say volunteering? Yeah, they were volunteering, and we had that thing so packed. And we were
good on you.
We were way in the back of the show. And I always tell this story, because I do education for Wall, and Mr. Wall himself walks past my little booth.
No way.
And I tried to sell him a DVD. I didn't know who he was. And I gave him my pitch, and he said, no, thank you. And he walked away. And about 10 minutes later, one of the Wall educators walks back with some Wall clippers that Mr. Wall himself personally wanted me to have. And
That's awesome.
I took them, and I continued about my business. And I think that was my first introduction to Wall, although they may have seen me there that day. They just didn't know who I was still to that point. And
they were learning.
I kept on, I made volume 2, volume 3. And then when phone apps came out, I made my own instructional phone app, and I even took haircuts from that and put it on DVD. Um, and in the midst of all of this, I understood that it wasn't being done in English and Spanish out there. So that's what I did with my DVDs and my instructional content as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah.
that was,
You had both English and Spanish on there.
and
Great idea.
that made my stretch go even further.
Yeah.
That was something that I was thinking about, like strategically.
Yeah. That's awesome. So the now so now let's push forward. So how did the wall link up happen? Like what made it happen? What was the circumstance there?
So what happened was one of my good friends, you may know him in the industry, Ivan Zoot.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Wow.
so
By the
he
way, just for those of you who don't know, Ivan has what is it? He has the world record for the most haircuts
in a day,
in X
yeah,
amount of time. And it
yeah.
was like, what was it? Like 54 haircuts within an hour or something like that?
I don't know. It was a lot.
It was a lot.
He
I might be
hold,
exaggerating a bit there, but not by much.
he definitely holds world records. But one thing that a lot of people that don't know about him today, but back in the day when I met him, he was actually the education director for Andis Clipper Company.
Oh, no way.
And that's when I met him, because I had this fascination with men's cuts and clippers. And
Yeah.
down the road, I even started working with other distributors. And those distributors happened to be distributing Wall tools. And Wall had a meeting, and Ivan was there, and they were telling him they were looking for uh, instructors or educators, and they were also looking for educators that spoke Spanish. And Ivan told them who I was, you know,
Oh,
and that was from networking from 2006,
yeah.
up until I've been with Wall now 8, 9 years. So you could just
Yeah.
kind of do the math. Everything
Yeah.
didn't happen overnight.
Yeah. See, now there's the other thing is that, and because nothing that you're doing, I'm going to imply something here, but I don't want it to be taken wrong. That if we think that we get everything overnight, and it just doesn't happen that way, and you had to put in some time learning how to do what you do, learning how to network, learning how to make connections with other people, and even though it might sound like it was you just got a break, you had to work your tuchus off to get that people to know you so somebody else could recommend you to give you the break. Does that make sense? And I
Yeah.
really want people to hear that. That it doesn't just happen overnight. Sometimes you got to work for 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 years that to be an overnight success as other people think.
And also just imagine if I never put myself out there as an educator without anyone
Yeah.
backing me, just um, it, I always tell people, you can knock on the door. I wasn't going to knock on the door. I kicked the door down, and I moved in there, and I made myself seen, if
Yeah.
you want to put some thought into that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. So now I don't want to. I want to talk later about some of your competition work, but what I did notice in Wall gave you a great credit after you won Naha a couple of years back, and they wrote down, and I want to just read this out to the people that he said they put down in their description of you is your approach to the creative process is sticking to your roots and honor your legacy. Give us a little insight. Tell us what that means? Give us a little more. What does that mean to
So
you?
So, to me, to me, that means I represent where I'm from. And, those words, I would imagine, are speaking to competition and speaking to a collection I did.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because if you look at hair designs and you've been around long enough, you know that in Chicago, our hair designs are done a certain way. And some people call them freestyle, some people call them wild style, some people call them graffiti style. And
Bingo. See, that's where I would have put it, because I was looking at all your stuff, and because I've got that kind of graffiti on my arm as well, and that style. This is more of a New York style graffiti. I got the demo of it. The person that did it originally was from London, and my when I was living in Manhattan, the artist that was there said we got to make it more New York. But I want to take that back to your style. I see it in there, and it's beautiful, but it really has that kind of graffiti kind of feel.
uh-huh.
And I think it's so beautiful. And I marvel at how you can get that in a head of hair that sometimes doesn't always have the same consistency throughout. So what's that like?
So kind of going back to the style. So, and what Wall had to say there, that's just me representing my hometown and where I'm from. And we know that that legacy is going to move on through the next generation of barbers. I teach that to my students on a daily basis.
Yeah,
When I'm here at the school, I'm instructing them and I'm teaching them that style. And that
yeah,
style, now with the internet and social media, it's worldwide. I
yeah,
see it. I see it mimicked all over. So definitely means a lot to execute it. For me, I've been doing it for years. So I've developed techniques, and I can teach that step by step to somebody.
that's
And
nice.
that's where the legacy part's going to keep moving it forward.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I know you're going to have a hand in that. I can see that happening. I want to, because we're into barbering, and when I was, we won't even start. There was dirt, and then I got into hair. But when I was in hair, that was during the '60s, and when everything was really about precision cutting and all of that kind of stuff. And we went from roller cuts to roller sets into cutting, etc. And then at that time, like prior to that, barbering was like huge. Like there was every man on the earth went to a barber. And then it kind of went into unisex, and a lot of the male customers got pulled away into salons or unisex salons, etc. And while barbering stayed there, it kind of took, and I hate to say it because, but it kind of took a little back seat for a short while. But then it came back with a vengeance. And I know it's been more than a decade or so right now. It's been quite a while, but that now everything that you see, even in women's hair, is as reflected in some of the things that you see in barbering.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit. What do you think what do you think was the change that happened to bring barbering back to
Yeah.
really become supernova when it hit the market in the
So
industry?
I remember 2011, 2012, even sooner, doing education and, people speaking of barbering being like some lost art form, you know?
Yeah.
And I
Oh, it
feel,
almost was. It almost was. And I don't say that because I have the utmost respect for every barber that was out there. I went to them when I was a kid and so on. But it happened when they made this wild shift into, it was trendy, it was hot, it was, you wanted to go to the barber to get something cool.
yeah, absolutely. And I think, we were preaching that years ago, even, when I just started doing education, I wasn't doing education with manufacturers or anything. We were talking about fusion and bringing that world with this world, and putting the two together, Cosmo and Barber. And
Yeah.
that was something also, me myself personally, like I said, I went to Cosmo school, and then I did the instructor program in cosmetology, and then like you and your cool graffiti tattoo, I went and got a barber pole tattooed on my arm. you know
Oh,
and
sweet.
and I said, well, I own a barber shop, and, I have barber tattoos, but I'm not officially a barber, So that encouraged me to go and get my barber license. And then I also got my barber instructor license. So I did 4,500 hours in Illinois.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
most people think one program is a lot. I did four of them.
Wow.
But like I said, I was glad I did it because I got to see both sides. And I knew that cosmetologists wanted to learn what barbers knew, and barbers want to know what cosmetologists know, you know?
Bingo.
And so I think that our industries have been tying both together for some time now. And especially when there was the barber craze, right? Like
Yeah.
we could say that. I think it brought a lot more on to our industry, and a lot more notoriety, and people just really wanted to go back to the barbershop because of the environment and the atmosphere, all the things I fell in love with at that moment in time back then, when I was just seeing the barber that was giving me a fresh fade,
Yeah.
and I think with that, the barber started to grow more. And I think barbering is still evolving, and it's infusing with cosmetology now. You have a lot of barbers very interested in cosmetology, and
Interesting.
the styles are changing. And I also feel like barbers are now very knowledgeable on taking it to the next business level at this point.
Give me more. What does that mean?
So they understand that there's money to be made now, and there's a lot
Yes.
more information out there now. And you have a lot of barbers that have had success in their field, and they're now giving back.
Yeah.
They're starting companies that are consulting the newer generation on how to build wealth. And you have instructors that are very knowledgeable, and educators that are knowledgeable now opening up their own schools, like myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's I'm glad that you're talking about that, because I think that whether it's hairdressing or barbering, I think it's almost I've heard it as termed as the second oldest profession in the world, but I'd like to think of it as sometimes the best kept secret in the world of money making, because the amount of money that you have the opportunity of earning by how you apply yourself behind the chair, how you the social aspect of using social media to gather information, to gather clients, and get your work out there. To me, I think that the more that we can let people know that there is a tremendous amount of money and opportunity to create a tremendous amount of money in this, where they don't see us as. I was doing a podcast just the other day, and we were talking on there how the U.S. Information, the U.S. It comes out on an annual report that in the hairdressing, in the hair world, barbers, hairdressers, etc., it's something like the average is like $28,000 a year. I don't know many people that only make $28,000 a year in our business, and most of them make a lot more than that. So what do you feel about that? How do you feel about those numbers when you hear that?
I feel like that's not the first time I've heard that, and I think it's up to the leaders in these industries to inform and give that knowledge to the newer generation, so that they know that they should be doing things like paying their taxes and showing
Bingo.
what they're making, and a
Yeah.
lot of people just don't know. They just don't understand, and they're used to trying to beat the system when the system is the system. It's
Yeah.
there. It's there, and if we start reporting and we start showing what we're making, it's going to elevate us even more.
Yeah. And if they notice, get proper guidance from accounting and from tax people that that you don't have to hide your money. You can have tax implications by the way that you make preparations in advance. Let's not go. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too far, but I love what you said out there. Is that it doesn't matter whether you're working on your own, whether you're working for somebody. We want everybody to get all the tax breaks they can. It's not we're saying throw your money at the government, but you want to make sure, take care of yourself, but also make sure that if we're reporting everything out, everything that we do, everything that our people in the hair industry are guarded by or ruled by is what they think that we make.
Right.
And we cheat ourselves when we do it.
And that's
I want to take you back. I want to take you back just one quick thing in here because I don't want to let this go. Because I was reading a report that you were talking that somebody was interviewing you, and where you said that that barbering needs a louder voice in the hair industry, and I agree that for every part. But what is it about? Tell me why that. What is it that you feel is going on that you want to have barbering have a louder voice?
just in general, I think that even though our worlds are meshing, technical wise, um,
Yeah,
I think that cosmetology has had their side as far as financials and everything. They've had it on lock for some time, and barbering could also, take a lot of that knowledge and spread that around as well,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
and just kind of like thinking about what you said. Can you repeat that again?
Yeah, like I was just reading, and this was, I think it was it was, I think I was in one of your bios, or it was something that said, but it was said in there because you were talking about that barbering as a whole needed a louder voice in hair,
Mm.
and I kind of took that
Uh-huh.
because of the position that it's in right now. Barbering is so strong right now.
Uh-huh.
And I took it
Yeah.
that you were saying it wasn't getting to the accolades that
Well,
you thought it was. And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth there.
yeah. Well, if I kind of touch on that subject, think about it like this, right? The Naha award that I've won
Yeah,
was for men's hairstylist of the year.
yeah,
Okay. The year after, the category changed to barber of the year. Okay.
yeah,
So in my own eyes, I feel like hey, we're trailblazing right now.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
changing the industry, and barbering is getting that recognition now. You
yeah.
know, in this world of Naha awards or whatever's
Any awards? Yeah,
whatever's
yep,
associated around that. So if you look at what the categories that category was like before and who was entering it, and it wasn't necessarily barbers. I remember entering the year before I got nominated, the year before I
yeah,
won, and I was honored to be nominated. And then the person who received the Naha kind of went up there and said, "Hey, I don't consider myself a men's hairdresser." And I'm like, wait a minute, how how could you accept this award and say that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
to me, I felt like, hey, the barbers really need to start stepping over to this, but I also feel like it's a growing process as well. Barbers they have to put the work in, and they have to present themselves in a way where they're showing that they're on that level, and they're actually showing something to be recognized for what they do. You know,
Yeah.
so that's kind of what I'm looking at, and I would piggyback off of that and talk about more on the industry and the shift. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of full circle, isn't it? Where barbering was at the top of the list and everybody went to a barber. And if you're listening, actually using air quotes right now. Actually, I'm only using the right hand side because I have my notes in the other hand. But it's full circle, wasn't it? Because we talked about barbers beforehand, and then it was unisex. Nobody used the term barber as much. Then barber came back into it again as soon as we went back to fades, and everybody was tapering hair and putting designs in their hair. And for a while there, and some hairdressers might be a little bit PO'd at me at this, but actually, 'cause with all the long hair that was out there, and men's was the coolest hair that was really out there, because they had really cool short hair designs, and most of the women's hair was longer, and it was much more refreshing. That makes sense to see all this cool stuff in the men's hair. So it's been kind of full circle where they went from men's or to the unisex, and then it was just men's styling as opposed to barber, and now it's back to barbers and giving their proper recognition. It's awesome.
So
It's awesome.
so even at that, Chris, talking about that and talking about the men's hairstyling category and barbers recognition and whatnot, that's what inspired me also to say, hey, you know, it's been so many years that hairstylists have entered into the men's category.
Yeah.
Well, why don't I go into the hair cutting category, which is predominantly, you know, uh, the people who win are the cosmos
Yeah.
or the hairdressers,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
well, why don't I try there? And
Yeah.
that's what led me to join that category this year. And
That's
lo and
awesome.
behold, I did get nominated for hair cutting as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, and it's awesome. Yeah, I tell you, you're showing your skill all the way around there. So, I think we might have been into some of the why behind it, but I want to jump into the photography that you've been into, etc. Was there? I think we kind of got the vibe that you had been doing a lot of, filming your own work. What jumped you into wanting to transfer to pictures and for Naha? Like, was there something that led it to you? Was it to be seen? Was it what really pushed you into, okay, I'm taking my chances, I'm buying a ticket, and I'm going to enter my work? What was that?
Well, I knew that I knew about Naha for years,
Yeah.
and the first year I entered, um, at the time I was called by the National Director of Education for Wall, and she told me, she said, "Hey, I need you to meet me at this studio. We're going to shoot a we're going to do a creative photo shoot." Okay. I wasn't told I was shooting for Naha. Okay. So I show up, and then I'm told I'm shooting for Naha, and I'm kind of like thrown back, because I do
That
understand the severity of this. And mind you, I didn't know who my models were either, you know.
Yeah.
But this is something I always say. I always say preparation, you know.
Yeah.
I've been preparing for that moment all throughout my career. So
Yeah. There you go.
when it finally came, I was prepared for it. So
Good.
I took a deep breath, and then I
You
cor
you puckered up your butt just a little bit and jumped in.
hey, I said, okay, these are going to be the models I choose. And, you know, I started to strategize. I wanted to show variety and different hair textures, ethnicities, and I went for it that way. And
Yeah.
that was the year I did get nominated, but I didn't get the Naha, right?
Yeah.
So the following year was when I was like a little more prepared and a little more strategic. And
Yeah.
um, that's kind of what got me into shooting the creative photo shoot. You know, I was just spur of the moment
Yeah.
told I was doing a creative shoot, and it happened to be for Naha. And you know, it's like once you get bit by the bug, you kind of want to keep going. You know.
There it is. There it is. There it is right there. It's just like I always say when it's nerve-wracking as hell because you're going to be judged and most people don't want to be judged. You know, and but the other side of it, I think I just had a conversation with a wonderful young lady just yesterday, as a matter of fact, and she was talking about Naha, and I just said, look, you just need to jump in with both feet, and don't be afraid if you lose. You know, I mean, if you go in and you win your first time, God bless, but you got to just go in and do it, and you got to find out what you're doing wrong, the way you did your first haircut. It's just the same thing, but you don't want to lose, but you have to be prepared to lose because, especially at the beginning, you got to learn your chops and you got to learn what works, what doesn't work. So I want to take my hat off to you on that. That's like I say. One day, I swear to God, you and I are going to get together, and you're going to put a clipper in my hands. I can clipper cut, but I can't clipper cut like you. And you're going to teach me how to do those designs. That's something I would be nothing that would please me more than that. So
Definitely.
while we're
I look
talking about
forward to
you,
it.
oh well, listen, we're going to make that a date, brother. Um, Nieves, what pushes you? What when it comes to just you and moving forward? I just kept hearing about I'm not going to knock at the door. I'm gonna kick the mother. Yeah, I'm going to kick it down. I'll just leave it at that. Um, but what pushes you to do that?
I just think where I'm from, my upbringing, you know, rough neighborhood, you know,
Hmm.
you had to survive and you had to
Yeah,
be tough, and
yeah,
there was no time to feel sorry for yourself, and you got to keep it moving. And
yeah,
you know, it's just that drive, that flame that's lit inside of me that's gonna, you know, keep me going. And you know, now I have kids, and you know, I'm building for them as well at the same time, you know. And failure is not an option, you know, and it never has
yeah,
been.
yeah.
My son is doing barbering now. Um,
Good.
Actually, both of my sons are.
Oh,
And
really? Is it Jacob? Did I get the name right?
yeah, Jacob,
Yeah, yeah.
and then there's Jason. Uh-huh.
Ah,
And then my wife Christina, she loves doing nails. So if you look at my Naha collection, she did the nails on my Naha collection.
oh, that's awesome.
But she also has her Cosmo license, and she also has her barber license, and now she's enrolled for the barber instructor program here at the school. So she works with my students a lot as well, and you know, it's becoming a family business. And
Yeah,
you know, the drive. Everyone's always going to say, "Hey, what motivates me is my family." Of course, but also, I credit everything to my upbringing and things that I seen growing up, and a lot of people that are not here today that I could have
Yeah.
been in the same situation. You know.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you are. Is there in your evolution that from the street to and that might have implied something that was way off, but if you're where you were, where you came from, and the process you went through, and how you evolved into who you are now, is there something in there that you wish you wouldn't have done, or you would have changed about the way that you did it to get to where you are faster?
Um, no. No. I mean, I started my first barber shop when I was 23 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
So you gotta think, even as I'm in my 20s, and I'm in hair school and I'm looking at everything. I was out of my parents' house at 17. I was driving a car at 14. I didn't even have a driver's license.
I was going to say, is that legal age in Chicago?
So no. so I feel like I was in a position where I had to grow up fast, but
Yeah.
I loved every minute of it, and every step of the way. If I was never losing, I was always learning,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
um,
Hey, pause there, because I want everybody to hear that. I wasn't. You said if I wasn't learning. No, I want you to say that again.
I was never losing. I was always
Was
learning.
always learning. That's brilliant. I wasn't always. Now say it again, because I want to get it in my brain, because I love that.
I was never losing. I was always
I was never
learning.
losing, but I was always learning. I love that. That's more people should think of it that way, because you might not have got exactly what you want, but you did learn something, so you got it. So you got it later. I love that. One more for you here. What is it that you know now that you didn't know in the past that would make a difference in your life? Listen, I'm going to ask you. I'm going to put that differently to you. If you could talk to the 20-year-old or 23-year-old Nieves, and you had something to say to him, what would you say to him?
I would tell him to save your money, and
Mm,
learn more about the financial aspect of business. When you're young and you're successful, like I said, I opened my shop and it was instant success. And so I thought. I had a lot of cash at hand, and a lot of it came in
mm.
one hand and went out the other. So uh,
Yeah.
had I
Believe me, brother, I know exactly what you're talking about.
had I been a little more savvy on that, I definitely I would be telling myself at that age to be more cautious with your money and
Yeah.
save it, and you know have a plan. Have a plan in
Yeah.
motion. Think about the future a little more, and that's the way I would go about talking to my younger self. And
Yeah. Good for you.
that's the way I talk to my son.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Experience, right, man?
right?
Yeah. It's just like my mom always used to say, too soon old, too late smart.
Hmm.
So I also read in there that you have a donation box haircut events at your barber schools.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So it's through a local church, and the pastor of the church, he's a longtime client of mine. And when I converted over, because my barber shop is actually in the location where my school is now, so
Ah,
I converted the barber shop over to a school. We
yeah.
just we did a little expansion, and that's what it is now, all the school.
Yep.
So, a lot of the faces that were coming in here, they still continue to come in from the barbershop days. And
Got it.
the pastor from the church, he comes in and, you know, I'm just looking for ways where, we can start to be more of a community driven business as well, and get involved. And that's one of the ways we were able to get involved, with the community. What we do is we have a donation box. Anyone from that congregation that comes in and they get a haircut with us, we don't charge them, they could donate whatever they'd like and put it in that box. And at the end
Nice.
of the we do like a flyer, and we put a date on it so we can drive them in at that specific time. And at the end, when that date is expired, we tally up all the money and we donate it back to the church.
And where does that? So the money goes to, like, I think, where does that money go to? Do they give it to? Is it homeless, or is it? Where does the money go to from? Like, is there a place that it's contributed to specifically, or is it a variety of different places?
Yeah, a variety. At one point, we contributed to the construction of their new temple. They built a whole new building there.
Oh,
so that was part of it.
Sweet.
And I think it's more, on the lines of the way the haircut goes with us, and the satisfaction that the person that comes in, and they actually really like to come in and talk, and they're glad to be a part of that as well, and they feel like they're a part of the growth of the church, and the events that are being held as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think just that, to give back, like, we get a lot from the community, so the more that we can give back, the better, So when you're on the road, I mean, we talked a little bit about this before we opened up the thing, but is to talking about, some of when you're on the road, just for those of you who don't know, sometimes you're on the road and your fellow partners, et cetera, that you're out there with, is you can play pranks on them. And a lot of you in the previous episodes before have heard of some of the stuff that we've done on the road, everything from in the salon, sending people on for supplies that don't exist, to doing pranks on our friends on stage. Is there anything that, when you've been on the road, that pranks either that you've had done on you, or pranks that road stories that you would have done just for a laugh to your partners?
So I think I think at this at my age now, I'm kind of like the older dude in the crowd. When we went on tour, the Disrupt tour with Wall.
Yep.
A lot of the guys were younger than me, and we had our film crew with us, and it was just one big fun time, right? But one of the things, like, these younger dudes at the time were, they'll say something like, let me get a "oh yeah," but they do it in this voice, like, "oh yeah." even more high pitched than that.
Yeah.
But so one of the things we used to do to kind of mess with everybody is, when we would stay in these hotels, sometimes we're on different floors. So if you were the guy that got off on the lower levels and we were all on that elevator as a crew, when you walked off into the hall, all you would hear yelling out the elevator down that hall was, "oh yeah."
Oh yeah.
You'd have about 5 or 6 voices of that just echoing down the hall, and that
down the hallways.
The guy who got off that elevator first,
Off last,
he was running into his room.
You wanted to be on the top floor, I take it. I laughed at, there was a group that out of the UK that came over to America and were doing a class. And every night they would tape different things on the door. They would have a sign and they'd say, add on to this, and they would tape cigarette butts or whatever it was onto his door. And then on the final night, they got duct tape and duct taped his whole door shut with like a roll of duct tape, so he couldn't get out in the morning. And he had to call down for the maintenance people to come and dig him out of his own room. Oh, that was funny stuff. Listen, I'm going to throw some stuff at you rapid fire here. And just first word or first, things that come to sense. If it's got a sentence, great, but things that just come to your brain. What the things that turn you on in the creative process?
Clippers.
Clippers, love it. What stifles it? Stifles your creativity?
Clippers.
Clippers. I love it. An event or a show that you've done that you loved. Okay, the one that really that's the one you went, oh my God, that was one of the best ones. Well, I'm sure there's many. The first one that comes to your brain.
I would say we did the BTC show out in New York. It was one of their tour dates, and it was right when the pandemic hit. And
oh wow!
And actually, the IBS show canceled. And we went along with the BTC show. And I remember being in there, and it was just so packed and so full of energy. And I shared the stage with a couple people, and even one of them cracked open a Corona on stage.
Uh-oh.
And lo and behold, the whole world shut down.
Yeah.
That was a monumental moment, though, for me.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Loved it. Okay. Something that, in life in general, not necessarily industry, things in life you dislike the most.
In life? What I dislike the most?
Yeah.
When people have the ability but don't apply it.
And what do you love the most?
People.
Bingo. Most difficult time in your life?
Difficult. It's a tough one for me because I try to be optimistic, and I feel like a lot of those difficult times, like I said, I learned from them,
Yeah. Give me an example of one of them.
I would say losing friends.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we've all been there. Excuse me. The things that you hate the most about our industry.
About our industry, unlicensed professionals. They're not professionals.
Thank you. Exactly.
Unlicensed hair cutters.
Yeah. Person that you admire the most.
Admire the most. You know what? These days, I'm really, really admiring my wife.
Oh. You're going to get a nice meal tonight, buddy. Something that people don't know about you. Yes, she does. Well, all of the wives who are married to us deserve a lot more than they get. And I'm speaking about myself personally on that one. A person you wish you could meet.
A person. Not only do I would want to meet him, but I would want to hang out with him for a while. Dave Ramsey.
Oh, interesting. Something that people don't know about you.
Some people don't know about me. I like to read.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I just gave you a month off. Where would you go? Can't be about hair. Where would you go? What would you do?
I seen some pictures of some people out in Bali. I would love to go to Bali.
Love it. Things that you're terrified of.
I guess making the wrong decision at the moment and then having to
Yeah.
clean up if it's not a good one.
Uh-huh. Favorite curse word?
Curse word, I would have to go with the universal one, Phuck.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. Oh, I love it. Favorite comfort food?
Ooh, see, I'm a foodie, so
Uh-huh.
mm,
Don't have to worry about calories. You don't have to worry about anything else.
oh
Just your
man,
favorite one you want, the one you go to when you need some comfort.
there's so much good food out there, but I do enjoy me a good
Yeah.
steak. A good steak.
Oh, yes, brother. Well, come on. How? Rare, medium rare, well done?
I'm a medium well guy.
A medium well. Okay, we can't be friends anymore. Just kidding. Okay, good. Something in the industry that you haven't done that you want to.
Win two Naha awards
There you go. Well, I've
on
sensed that's coming,
on the
brother.
same day.
On the same date, yes. Okay. In Canada, we call it a do-over. Do you know do you have the same expression here?
Do over?
A do-over. A do-over is I did something, but I just wish I could do that over again so I get a different result. I'm going to give you a do-over. What would it be?
Um, Anything that requires a contract, make sure you get the contract.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Last one of the rapid fire. Tomorrow you couldn't do hair anymore. What would you do?
Nothing hair related?
Nothing hair related. Nothing. Can't do hair. Nothing to do with the hair industry. What would you do?
I think whatever I do, I will excel at it.
No, come on. Whatever. You got to give me something. That's give me something. What would you do?
I'd probably get into the real estate business.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
But I will say
Okay.
this. I will say this, Chris. If
Yeah.
if I was successful and money wasn't a factor, and I couldn't do hair no more, but I wanted to do something to get myself out the house or whatnot, I'd go work at McDonald's.
Oh, back full circle. Back full circle. Now, if anybody didn't believe what you said at the very beginning when we talked about jobs that you had, this cements at home right here what you said. Okay, I got two more questions for you here. If you had one wish for our industry, what would it be?
One wish. I wish people would stop saying that the Cosmo and the barber world are so far apart, and it needs to be put together. And I think we're beyond that point at this point.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
all
Hair doesn't have a gender.
It's just all hair now.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, just for the people that are watching and whistling, that which in another language meant listening. But for the people watching and listening at home, and if you could get them to let go of something or to stop doing something in our industry, what would it be?
Stop complaining. Nobody cares.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that you're pretty much hit it on the head. And it's interesting. I find that generally the people that are complaining are the people that are watching something else and they're wishing they had it, but not wanting to do anything about it, So, there's this whole saying that we have. And one of the foundations, what this platform started with was what we call Goya, just get off your assets and do something about it,
Love
Nieves,
it.
while, like we said, we're always best hallway friends, I truly hope that one time that we can get together, raise a glass, have a dinner together, shoot the breeze, and just, as friends talking across the table from one another. So I'm honored and thankful for you for being on our show, and I just want to say thank you very much.
No, thank you for having me, Chris, and I look forward to that day.
It's a date. We're going to make sure that happens. And I want to meet Christy, your wife?
Christy, she goes by Christy. Her name's Christina.
Christy. Well, she's got the right names. It's always in there. So I want to meet the both of you. We're going to have a dinner together, and I'm buying. Okay, you're buying the wine.
Steak. Steak and lobster, huh?
Steak and lobster. There we go. All right, brother. So in the meantime, thank you guys very much. I really appreciate you for being on here, my friend. And for those of us listening and watching, thank you, and see you on the next go round.